have 60 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You have 60 seconds to comply. This is minute 42. Part man.
Part machine.
Or
Cart. This minute begins with Morton washing his hands while Dick watches, and ends with Morton saying, "The old man thought it was pretty important, Dick."
Yeah.
And this is the Battle of the Big Jogs.
I honestly didn't have too many notes on this because it's just such a great scene between two phenomenally good actors.
Yeah, it's very much an acting scene. There's not much technical stuff to discuss, but I think the dynamic between the two of them, and now, correct me if I'm wrong, so this is how I'm interpreting it. Miguel Ferrer's kind of, so he's trying to look like he's confident, but at the same time you're seeing a bit of, he's uncomfortable, he's vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's sort of gone, I don't care, I'm fine with you yelling in my face, Dick, this is okay.
Yeah, so, the thing is, the book and the script are almost exactly the same dialogue-wise. The only thing in the book, there's more of an emphasis that Morton is afraid. So I reckon that was probably a thing where he doesn't even really have any acting notes in the script. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, Morton is supposed to be afraid, like, in context. But Miguel Ferrer does not really act that. I think that it's such a perfect encapsulation of Morton's character that, yeah, he knows there's the bigger dog in the room, but he's not backing down. But he's definitely a little bit wary.
Yeah, he's not letting it show. He's kind of trying to bring this front of, you know what, you're boring me. Are you done? You know?
He is. And, god damn. It's just one of those just... In a movie with perfect moments, this is just one of those perfect moments.
Yeah, I never noticed it before, but there's so much going on in their performances just in a minute alone. It's amazing.
It's just those subtle acting choices that just elevate this... I mean, it's essentially a confrontational scene. And, you know, I think they played it as like, you know... If Morton was played more like, I'm the underling, I'm weak, and I'm submissive to Dick Jones, then I don't think he would have quite the same energy, and I think they did the right choice here. And I've got a note for the next minute, but bugger, I'll bring it up now. Morton's line in the end of this particular scene doesn't exist in the script or thing, so that was clearly something they added on the day.
Oh.
When Morton steps up to Dick and, you know, he's tugging his hair and he knocks it off and stuff like that, and he's really aggressive.
Yeah.
That's not there.
Ah. Yeah, because that is such an inspired thing. It's so strange but so memorable.
Yeah. I think it's more in the next minute, but yeah, the definitely the homoerotic subtext.
Oh yeah, it gets a little bit that way. And I find...
We'll talk about that more in the next minute.
Isn't it funny, though, that any sort of intense emotion kind of manifests in the same way? Like, if it's aggression or it's affection, it's invading personal space, lots of eye contact. It's so strange how both extremes manifest the same way.
Yeah, well, I think in something like a movie, because we're having such it's a visual language, visual communication, and so I'm just trying to think how many scenes where you get such intense confrontation.
Not in this movie, not really.
The thing that comes to mind, say, for example, is The Matrix Reloaded. Neo finds the architect, and it's this big scene, but they're standing apart, and it's...
Well, I was just thinking in this movie specifically that Boudica never has that kind of dynamic, and I think it's because there's always this imbalance of power. So when he's just about to kill Murphy, Murphy's not even... I mean, at first there's a little flirtation, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Buddy, I think you're slam. You know, there's a little bit of that, but
yeah,
there's this cold detachment. Like, Boudica does not care. There's none of that heat there. Whereas Dick and Morton, there's that heat, and then later on in the final confrontation between Boudica and RoboCop, well, RoboCop is a robot, so again, there's none of that heat there. There's none of that passion. There's nothing else like this scene in this movie.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, because I think it's also with... Between, say, Boudica and Robocop, and Boudica and Murphy, there is a power imbalance in that. Okay, so in the Murphy scene, Boudica has all the power. He's outgunned Murphy. Murphy is essentially knowing, I'm dead.
Damn,
Whatever.
Outgunned Murphy would be a great name for a band.
Oh, yeah. I'm writing that down.
Yes.
That would be a good screamo band, wouldn't it?
Could be, or maybe synthwave, because it's an 80s
Oh,
reference.
synthwave would be good. But yeah, so like there's a power imbalance with those two, because at that point, and I think that's also kind of Boudica as well, like, he doesn't do well with one-on-one, realistically speaking, unless he's got the upper hand. So like the actual moment where Murphy's got the power in as RoboCop, kind of Boudica is like, what's the term? Tinfoil wolf or something? I can't remember what it is. Paper wolf.
Yeah, he's like, oh, don't, you can't do this.
Yeah, he hides behind his corporate master, which is like the first time in the movie. Well, we'll definitely get to that later on, but yeah, it's like the first time we finally see, like, okay, who's the real power behind this? Because at that point, there's no connection, and that's a really great reveal. But this particular scene, it's literally two big dogs trying to outdog each other, and Morton knows he doesn't have the upper hand here, but he's such a, I hate to use the term, but alpha male in this situation that he can't back down, and I think that adds to a good dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the term alpha male is definitely relevant because these are guys who definitely subscribe to these ideas. They are certainly thinking in those big dog terms.
There's a pecking order, and I'm at the top.
Yeah, if you Google big dogging, nothing shows up. I'm surprised.
Is that just a term that got invented by the greatest gen?
I thought so, but so big dog, yes, you can find that. But big dogging, apparently no. Only the greatest gen uses that phrase, and now we do.
We've culturally appropriated big dogging.
Yes. But it makes so much sense. Like, how else would you word that?
Yeah. I mean, it is essentially two, leaders of their packs just going at each other. Well, and one's smaller than the other, but, it's almost like, the small yappy dog, trying to take on the big dog, but that small yappy dog's got some bite.
Yes. And he will never admit when he's wrong.
So in other words, Morton is guys on the internet.
Yeah. Oh my god, he absolutely would. Well, I mean, this is set in the future, so yeah, he'd be one of those kids.
Oh my god, Morton's on 4chan in the future.
Oh Jesus, yeah, absolutely. So I was go back to the beginning of the minute.
Yeah.
Dick Jones talking about, I used to call the old man all kinds of names. Iron Butt.
Boner.
Now, Boner, he's old enough that Boner just meant a mistake. So it doesn't mean what you think it means. So, but I always knew where the line was. Did you really? Like, where's the difference?
Well, he once called him asshole.
Ooh.
And I love how Roddy plays that, like, wow, I just said the naughtiest fucking word in the schoolyard.
Exactly. And the whole idea, I always knew where the line was. Did you though? Did you really?
No. You get this vibe with Dick that he's just kind of been playing the long game. Like, he knows he can't go over the old man. Like, that's just a thing he just cannot do. But I think he's using that as a power play.
I guess we'll see that in the prequel series, his relationship to the old man. Will the old man get a name?
Oh, no. I still think he's just going to be like, he was born the old man. He will live as the old man. Unless we find out that the old man's real name is Iron Butt Boner Asshole. God. Sorry. I have the script in front of me, and that's exactly the terms in the original script.
It's so fucking childish, but...
I know. For a movie that's just
I called him a duty
violence.
head once. It reminds me of have you seen Misery?
Oh, I think I watched it once when I was a young kid, but I barely have any memory of it.
Kathy Bates, she's absolutely a psychopath, but she refuses
Oh, yeah.
to swear. So she's like, cock-a-doodie. And it's like, that's actually more terrifying because you think that you're in the right here, and so not swearing makes you better, I guess?
Yeah, that's a really good, that's a great thing to bring up, because it's interesting when you get someone like that who is, like, in many ways just pure evil, but then they suddenly have this, like, thing where it's like, oh, I don't do cuss words, and you're like, oh, that kind of makes you more scary.
Yeah. There's quite a few villains like that, I think, especially when they're religious and conservative, where it's just like, oh, well, we say grace before we have our meals, but also we, I don't know, enslave black people or whatever. Like,
Yeah, I was just thinking something along the lines of, like, it's been a while since I've watched Texas Chainsaw, but, like, this fact of, like, like, yeah, we have good graces here, and they're, like, serving food in, like, the heads of their victims or something weird like that. You're like, okay. I guess it's an interesting juxtaposition, which makes it, as a character trait, makes it more interesting, or at least, the creepiness of it is, where is that line? And damn, you got me thinking.
yeah, now I'm starting to go through a bit of a rabbit hole of, like, I guess no villain ever sees themselves as the villain. So giving them a detail like that really helps to sell that idea of, well, in their minds, they think they're moral and righteous and what have you.
Well, there's a few villains, I would say, that do think they are the villain. Like, the one that comes to immediately mind is modern-day interpretations of the Joker has become more of that. Like, Batman's the hero, so I must be the villain kind of mentality. But I think cinematically, the more interesting villains are the ones that do think they're the hero. I think that just adds a dimensionality, like, especially if the villains have their own goals, and that, again, the goals being counter to the hero's goals. So I think when you talk about storytelling and opposite goals adds conflict, so it is really good storytelling when you've got that, as opposed to like the villain who just wants to take over the world. Yeah. It's a thing, but kind of gets boring after a while.
Yeah, and that's why the RoboCop villains are all great, because it's just sort of, they're products of their society. They're just doing what they can to get through life. They've got their own priorities. Especially Morton. I think he's very ambitious and determined and tenacious, and doesn't really care about the collateral damage.
Yeah, actually, the thing that the line of this entire minute that I specifically wrote down, because I think it is so telling of not only of the character of Dick Jones, but also the critique on corporate culture and capitalism, and the guy who comes out ahead wins. All that mentality is, who cares if it worked or not?
Yeah, I was good. I had a note on that. It's just, it's so transparently evil.
Yeah, but it's also that thing of Dick Jones. He just doesn't give a fuck about the lives it may ruin, because as long as he gets what he wants, or it puts him in a position to get what he wants, he doesn't care. And you kind of get a thing where at least Morton might give a little bit of a shit, but not so much. Even he kind of just like, he pushed RoboCop as a way to get an advantage and get ahead in the company. He does believe it will work, and he definitely believes it will work better than the Ed 209. But he's not completely altruistic either.
Yeah.
God damn, these characters are good.
He wants a product that actually works, and really, that's... If the product works, that means that the consumer benefits, but also it shows that he's better than Dick, and that's the most important thing.
Well, even the line where Morton goes, the old man thought it was pretty important as well, is a line which kind of also gives you enough character for the old man without him being there. Like, it's important for the old man that Ed 209, or at least the security concepts we're going to be pointing out, works for us, because we're trying to build this city. Of course, they're not let's face it, they're not building the city for the little people. They're just trying to get rid of the crime so it doesn't just kill the workers. That's building their freaking capitalistic utopia. And well, let's face it, one of the things that kicks off the remake in a good way is the publicity backlash against the robots because of it seemed to be killing a boy with a knife in a gruesome way. Although I would argue that probably wasn't shown, or at least broadcast, because, let's face it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Censorship.
That's just media.
Yes.
And corporatism.
I know I talked about the interior design of this bathroom before, but just 80s interior design and architecture fascinates me because it just goes into such a plastic, synthetic, kind of futuristic neon realm, and which is such a huge contrast to the 70s, which is all wood paneling, very earthy colors, and
earth tones, brick and mortar, and you get into this, like, we'll get into the start of, like, you know, prefabrication and concrete and neon.
It's fascinating to me that a lot of style and fashion comes down to technology and what's available. So, the 80s making things out of plastic and vacuum forming and making molds and all that, that's a lot more accessible and cheap and what have you. And
the manufacturing side, I think, definitely really because like wood panel electronics, you look at that and go, that's 70s, and as soon as you see, like, you know, brushed aluminium stuff, you go, well, that's kind of the 80s, and then you get vacuum formed plastics and stuff like that, and injection molding. So
and a more contemporary example is that Y2K aesthetic. So late 90s, early 2000s, everything is all gradients, it's all blobby shapes, jelly bean cars everywhere. They just the Apple,
the jelly bean iMac,
the iMac look, so that's all down to what we were actually able to create with computers. And now we can still do that stuff, but we've pulled away. Well, okay, it's coming back a bit, but we moved away from that because we realized, hey guys, did you know we can do other shapes other than jelly bean?
When you look at things like, say, let's talk about injection molding. The more complicated a shape, the more complicated the mold has to be. So you really can't do many complex... You don't want to do many complex shapes. You want to keep it as simple as possible. So let's say you got a 2-part mold. If you want to have things that go into the mold, so like you want to have a shape that curves in and out or have like really sharp angles, that stuff is harder to manufacture. And especially if you're doing, say, like vacuum forming, you can't really get many indents, like really sharp things without a lot of massive issues. So it's like form and design kind of have to come together. And now we have things like 3D printing. I'm not sure how grand a scale that has been using, but we can now do rapid prototyping with 3D printing. So like you can probably mold these things better now because you have an object to mold around, as opposed to trying to, I don't know, CNC out a block of steel to create an injection mold.
Yeah, there's really no limits to what we can do today, but especially with I've probably spoken about my issues with modern car design. It's just so soulless, but that's the frustration. We have the technology, guys. Why
we can rebuild it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give the Tesla truck credit at least that it's this fun, geometric, futuristic-looking Blade Runner thing.
I still think they could have gone a little bit more extreme with that and like have something a bit more fun. But it is a bit bland.
Well, I can't wait for it to actually hit the market and then people start customizing it further. Body kits and
that requires it actually coming out on the market. This is Tesla.
It'll happen eventually. I guess. It's so weird. I'm still not used to... God, full tangent here. But seeing Teslas around the place. I saw a Tesla at a drive-in once. That was weird.
I'm just thinking, I wonder if it had a really long extension.
Yeah, because at the drive-ins, that's where all the vintage cars hang out, usually. And there's this fucking Tesla there, and it was just, no, you don't belong here. Get away.
No, I'm just thinking it'd be funny if you did like a Back to the Future style movie and you're using a Tesla, and so just so you have something that's so completely out of place anyway.
Hey, that's what it felt like.
But yeah, I do miss those 80s concept car aesthetics like crazy.
Boxy.
So much fun. That's a perfect talking about design of an era. You look at like the 90s, 30s and 40s car with like soft top canvas, these boxy things with wheels. You get to the 50s, you start getting like the classic Chevy kind of sculpted things with wheels and these rounded edges. Then you get these kind of flat boxy cars from the 70s.
You know, it's funny, the ones that weren't made, a lot of the concepts in the 80s that they drew but couldn't physically make were super round, and it wasn't until about 10 years later that they'd start making those horrible abominations.
Because there was a car made in the 70s, late 70s, I think it was like maybe late 70s. It was colloquially called the bubble car. And people hated it because it was this, bubble car. Ah, God, why would anyone want to drive a car that looks like a bubble? And now we're all driving cars that look like freaking bubbles. I might have gone on this tangent before.
Yeah. Maybe? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I just found an image of this DeLorean/Tesla hybrid. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Jesus. I'm just thinking, this could just devolve into an hour of car talk.
Yeah, I think I've hit all my notes. I think that's everything.
So, no, it's funny you mentioned about the, about this bathroom.
Oh, no, I had a fucking point with the whole car design. Robocop.
Oh, yeah, go.
He is surprisingly not as boxy as you'd expect.
Yes.
He's got the curves. He's curvy. He's thick.
Yeah. He is blocky in that sense of, like, it's very rudimentary shapes. Like, Robocop's shapes are very blocky in sense, but they've got these nice curvature, so it sells the silhouette.
It is, for the 80s, quite futuristic in that regard.
Yeah. So there's lines, but they're all curved. So, like, his visor is a straight line, but it's curved around the thing. There's no... It's a boxy shape, but there's no... sharp angles. Like his chest piece has got a grate, and like the grate has got curved edges. The actual segment is curved. I'm just looking at a picture I've got like right in front of me, and yeah, it's interesting that for such a boxy style character, there's no sharp angles.
Yeah,
and I think that's when you come to say like RoboCop 2, and you get this basically guy that looks like a prototype Bayformer. I think it's a great visual contrast.
Yeah, or the 2014 RoboCop.
I wouldn't even call the 2014 one so boxy.
Oh no, I mean it's gone the other way where it's very curved and soft edges and yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit, but because I think this is the only in the remake. This is the first time we see the actual suit in action.
Yeah.
And but we'll definitely get to that because but yeah, going back to I think I brought it up. I can't remember if I brought it up the last minute or not, but so this bathroom was a set. It was constructed in about 24 hours. Apparently, Paul hated every single location they went to, and apparently Ed got into trouble with a lot of people because he was just like, does it really matter?
Yeah, it's a fucking bathroom. But I think you need to be able to pull out walls to get certain angles. Like we were talking last week about, the legs, Dick Jones' legs coming up.
Yeah.
You have the upshot, you're looking through his legs to the... Yeah, you couldn't do that in an actual bathroom, especially not with the cameras back then. Maybe with a GoPro?
Yeah, unfortunately GoPros wouldn't exist for another 20 years.
What do you mean? This is from the future.
I stand corrected. So this was built in the studio, and it was built on short notice because what happened was they were rushing to find things to film. There was a delay on the suit. They do bring this up in the next minute, but I'll bring it up now. So the suit was built by someone else. They don't mention who the suit was originally built by, but for whatever reason it wasn't working, and they went, we're going to bring in Rob Bottin and get him to do it. So they were literally just trying to scramble for things to shoot while the suit was being prepared. So, like, I'm not sure how much it was pre-shot before the suit arrived. Like, I would imagine most of, say, the Murphy stuff, or maybe all that Philly stuff was probably done later on. But yeah, so yeah, that's just production weirdness. Sometimes it's just we're waiting on a thing, so we just have to film as much as we can. But yeah, I still think this is one of the best scenes in this film.
Honestly, I never noticed it before, but there is a lot going on.
Yeah. It's all subtle, it's all acted, and it's all... And I even like, the cinematography is brilliant. Like, the usage of the mirror and the shot with... I think I brought it up in the last minute. The shot where the two of them being reflected and stuff like that. I just think it's brilliant.
As a kid, I used to be frustrated with, say, a movie like this where I go... Ugh, all the other scenes are bullshit, and why can't we just have 3 hours of RoboCop just being RoboCop? It's like, okay, there's something called balance here, and you can't just have... It's the same with Alien or Predator. If it was just 90 minutes of that costume or that character, it would ruin the illusion, first of all. But also, you need that human story around... Alien is a prime example of... It's a fairly conventional B-grade sci-fi plot. There is nothing special about the, bullet point summary of the events of Alien. Also, my favorite movie ever, Christine. It's just my brother. God damn it! I'm gonna publicly shame him here. I've already publicly shamed him. I'll do it again. He, to be efficient, you see, he doesn't understand that art isn't about efficiency. But he's like, there's so many movies people tell me to watch, so I just watch these movie summary, or endings explained kind of videos, and it.
God, I hate when people do that.
And so he's like, I watched a summary.
I think we might have talked about this before.
Yeah, and he watched the summary of Christine. I'm like, that's not. But it's so important, like, the subtextual reading, and, like, but what about the music and the cinematography? And just, Yeah. So, it's not about seeing that car. I mean, the car is gorgeous and whatever. But it's nothing if you don't have all those amazing elements, those amazing characters, the interplay there, the drama, the human drama. And that's, no matter what genre you're writing in, you have to tell a human story.
Well, it's a way you get the audience to empathize with, like, say, well, I don't know much about Christine, but let's just talk about the robot cop. Is like, it's a silly concept, but we are, by this point in this movie, we are invested in this silly movie.
Lewis didn't have to be, or even Morton, they didn't have to be as fascinating and fleshed out as they are, but because they are, we're even more invested.
Exactly, and that's not something you can get by reading a paragraph on Wikipedia. Like, you can read a script, and that's kind of, I think, some of the magic in filmmaking. A script, I love reading script, I'll be honest. I've done script writing, I've studied film and all sorts of stuff like that, and I do enjoy reading scripts, but really a script is only just one part of the process. You really need to be able to transfer that script, and that's where you need a good visual communicator, you need a good director, you need good cinematography. You don't have to throw $300 million at a RoboCop movie to be as invested as we are. You just need good storytelling. We'll get to gaslighting pretty shortly, but that's one of the problems with the reboot, is that I'm not invested in anything that's going on there, and we're at the same point.
Yeah, it might look as realistic as possible, but what does that mean if I don't care?
Yeah, and I think we should continue this on with the other movie, because I've got nothing else to say about this movie, because I've got more to say the next minute. So,
yes, so gaslighting RoboCop.
Alex, how do you feel? I feel fine, Dr. Morton.
This minute begins with Murphy. No, start again. This minute
I think you're fine.
Murphy, yeah. This minute begins with...
Roboflag.
Roboflag, yeah. This minute begins with Roboflag entering the simulation and ends with him shooting a hostage taker. But not a real one, so it's okay.
So I just want to get my note in here first. My note is, why? 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 Why?
I see, yeah. So, this is one of those situations where it's making a lot of visual choices that are purely for the sake of telling that story, you know, why do we need a physical robot to be standing there hooked up to this simulation? Obviously, it makes sense. Murphy is a physical, real human being. But, you know, I am willing to give it a pass. I think they are doing some interesting things with the camera work here. There's this beautiful transition shot where there's Murphy walking around the simulation, and then you see him also coming into frame from the right, and you realize, oh, so there's a screen behind him, and this is the real Murphy, Roboflag. And, you know, if they had pushed that, again, I'm always talking about push it further. And I think there's some really just beautiful, fluid movements in this situation. And I do think this scene is achieving what it sets out to achieve. I will give this scene credit.
Yeah, I just don't think it's really that well handled.
And this is something I think will end up in this week or maybe the next week's episode of Covenant Minute. Is just why not television science fiction, but why is it that most movie science fiction, especially modern movie science fiction, so fucking dumb? I could probably count on one hand, you know. Let's see, Ex Machina, Under the Skin, Her. You know, there's a few modern science fiction movies where this genuinely made me think. This genuinely pushed my expectations.
Yeah, I think I might have brought this up on my guest spot on Prometheus, but I'll bring it up on here, so it's definitely ironclad on this particular series. Yes. Hollywood science fiction, or at least writers of science in movies, don't understand science or don't give a shit about science, and it's very much steeped into this whole anti-intellectualism that has been going on in America for a while. So when you get a good science fiction concept, it's usually handled insanely poorly. Like, you get these incredibly smart people, then they go into this alien planet, what's the first thing they do? I'm going to take my helmet off because it's got oxygen. You don't know if it's got pathogens.
Yeah, and you got these little indie movies like Upgrade and I Am Mother, both Australian also, and you're just like, wow, these are really smart concepts. You can see the limitations of the production visually. Yeah. I mean, they're still good-looking movies, but they feel small. Yeah. But that's fine because all you care about is the story. All that really matters in a movie, funny enough, is freaking story.
Story trumps visuals always, always, always.
Mm-hmm. And this movie, the 2014 RoboCop, it's just visuals. It's just here's a modern reimagining of these costumes and these props, and isn't that interesting? Yeah. Like, yeah, if I was just going through someone's ArtStation account, I guess. But the one thing that is that in this? Hang on, I'm gonna double check. They all blend into one. Oh no, it's in the next minute, so I'll hold back on my complaint about this particular scene.
I have notes for the next minute.
Yeah, I got a lot.
It's definitely one of those things where Hollywood isn't interested in reality, or at least Hollywood distrusts smart people in many, many ways.
Oh, yeah. America does not... They have this anti-intellectualism thing that is so strange to us outside of the US.
We saw that come into fruition just recently, where you've got very smart people saying, hey, there's this thing going on. You need to, go into lockdown. You need to separate. You need to wear a mask, wash your hands. We're trying to stop this spread. And then you get the dumbasses that are like, nah, ignore them. Everything's fine. The virus is a hoax, folks. It's from China. It's a China hoax.
Yep.
It's going to go away. It's going to go away by summer. It's going to go... It doesn't even exist, but it's going to go away.
2 years later.
Yeah. And it's always that thing where, you get these powerful people deliberately undermining smart people because, let's face it, they're trying to grift the money out of you, and Hollywood is mostly all about those Benjamins, baby.
Yep.
And so, it's just... It's amazing how many movies just go, wow, this could have been brilliant, but they just did not give a shit.
Not a single one.
Like, we've come up with ways we could have fixed this movie. Just simple tweaks. And, like, I can't hate this minute, to be honest. I think it's stupid. It's why would you do this? But I like the message of it. And that's the thing. You get a good message, but execution is different from intent.
Yeah, so in this scene, we are basically... Rorschach is the expert on AI here, and he works with these robots all the time. And you can see in this minute that he is proud of these machines. He loves working with them, and he's like, "Look, a human being, their thinking changes depending on their emotions. There's so many variables, but look, my machines will never be intimidated. They'll never be confused or overwhelmed. They are amazing, and I like the interplay here."
Yeah, no, there's also a thing where I like how, like, the robot knows that all the guns that they're up against, literally they've just laid it out in the previous minutes, 50 caliber bullets, may penetrate Robocop's armor. But you got a bunch of guys with 9mm pistols or, things like that. And, yeah, the robot just goes, they're not going to damage me. Or what happens if they shoot me? Oh, well, I can still operate at like 97% efficiency and still kill every mother in this room. And it just goes, yep, there's a guy there, bang, bang. But Murphy's acting like Murphy's acting like a fleshy robot. No, not even a fleshy robot, man. He's just acting like a fleshy guy. So he sees a guy, he ducks back around the corner. It's kind of instinctual.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we have primitive biology and medieval institutions and futuristic technology. And so we are expecting Murphy, a human being who evolved on, the grasslands of Africa several, millions of years ago. You're expecting him to work like a machine, and that I think that's actually speaking to an issue in society at large. And again, it's sad. It's a shame they don't really delve into that more deeply. But yes, we are living in a world where Amazon won't let their employees have bathroom breaks. We are becoming an increasingly automated, mechanized society. Oh, but not in the means of like the Jetsons future where we have more free time and the robots do everything. No. The humans are expected to keep up with the machines instead of giving them, I'm getting my soapbox here, like universal basic income. Or something. Oh, no. You got to work like 2 jobs because the robots are threatening to take your jobs.
No. Look, we got to all work 5 jobs for $1 an hour to do all the work just so Bezos can go and fly to Mars.
And we will tax you for doing 2 jobs instead of just doing the 1 job. What the fuck?
We can't tax the billionaires who have all the money because that will be harmful to the economy. That serves to, boost the bank accounts of the billionaires. We've got to protect our corporate overlords. That's the message of RoboCop.
Would someone think of the corporate overlords?
Oh, yeah, there's no good billionaires. And that's it. Yeah, podcast over. There's no good billionaires.
Mic drop. We're done. Yep.
But yeah, no, I do like. I completely agree. There's some unrealistic expectations. Although, funny enough, thinking about this, probably might go a bit more into it next minute. But Murphy has programming. We know this.
Yeah, so it should just take control. There's no reason why. Although maybe it's not. Okay, so to give them the benefit of the doubt, I don't think it's been activated yet. They're actually just trying to see how Murphy behaves as Murphy.
Yeah, but it's in the next minute, but I don't care. I'll bring it up now. Is after the performance and like Murphy's 6 seconds underperformed, which is nothing. Okay, yes, if you're going into micromanaging milliseconds, yes, there's a distinct difference. But realistically speaking, in a real-world environment, 6 seconds is kind of tiny. Oh, yes, that's a few reactions, but
I mean that could be the difference between life and death.
Yes, but we've seen in the simulation that Murphy still succeeded in the simulation. The kid didn't die, the mother didn't die. It still was a win.
Yeah.
But I like at the end how Norton's like, run it again.
Yeah.
And I think that what we're robbed is like what we need is a montage.
I think that would actually be really interesting if they did 2 kind of takes of this where we have I never remember his name, but Rorschach doing his take on it, like, look, he's failing. And then the next time they run through the simulation, then Norton gives his commentary, like, look at what he was capable of achieving that the robot didn't, you know?
Well, that's it. Like, if Murphy not knowing his body, the second time around, he's probably now knowing what his body is capable of.
Yeah.
It might only be like a 2-second difference, like an improvement. But it shows that the human brain is capable of learning, which is what you want.
Yeah, this scene was truncated, absolutely truncated. If you had... I think we've fixed this scene. So, when you just have this scene on its own, it doesn't seem to be saying anything, or the things it seems to be implying aren't really addressed or delved into. It almost seems accidental, which probably is.
Yeah.
Whereas, have Norton say, run it again, continue the scene, let's see how he's learned. Okay, look, his reaction time is 2 seconds faster, and he looks after the humans after the traumatic incident. He's actually responding like a human being. He's comforting them in a way.
Say what you will about Norton, he does aftercare.
Yeah. So, that's how you fix that scene. We've done it.
We probably should have been talking about that next episode, but honestly, I think...
Well, it just sprung up on us. It just happened. You got to go with the flow, man.
Yeah, it works within the context of what this scene is trying to say. And I think ultimately, that's why I say it's a good idea, but the execution isn't great.
No.
But yeah, Rorschach is the MVP of this movie, though.
All right. I think that about covers it.
So where can the lovely viewers find you?
You can find me at traviandesigns.com. You can watch me at Courtney Colson on YouTube. I am at The Greatest Regeneration on Instagram, going through the 1980s in chronological order, exactly 40 years ago. And I think that's all my and then, all the podcasts and stuff on Patreon.
Every single podcast,
Every single podcast, other than this one. Yeah, that's on patreon.com/TravianDesign.
And you can find me on Fandom Crossing on the YouTubes, where we'll get back to doing Kung Pao Into the Minute eventually. I got a lot of crap, but go check out Helios photos as well, where I post all the photography stuff I've been doing lately. But more importantly than that, go check us out on Simplecast, Spotify, Google, Apple, and whatever your favorite podcasting or podcatching or pod thing,
feeding,
pod people, pod. Yeah, like, share, subscribe, do all that bullshit, write a review. Tell us if you write a review, because we don't know if you've written a review or not. So, get in contact. Do some of that parasocial bullshit. Feed the algorithm other things. Until next time.
Iron butt.